I mean, my reaction to it was I found it very troubling, and I'm not sure that troubling in the way the film intended. I mean, Anne Dowd is terrific. There was another interview with Craig Oberlin, which he said that he felt that the negative reactions were due to how removed the film feels, how objective it feels. And my problem with it actually is that it doesn't achieve the objectivity for which it strives. I don't think that it doesn't strive to that objectivity. I think it just doesn't manage to hit it. I mean, one of the problems that they have is clearly how much to show, and you were sort of touching on that. I mean, there is always the tendency, you know, that it's perfectly possible to exploit this situation. The caller on the one end of the phone, you know, telling people to effectively perform for him. If you're putting that stuff on screen, aren't you somehow complicit? And one of the questions that the film has raised is, you know, how complicit are we in all this? The thing I'd say about it is, if you look at the rigorousness of, for example, Michael Haneke, although Haneke himself, you know, isn't completely without fault in this area, but if you look at a film called Funny Games, there's a central moment in Funny Games when the camera literally looks away. The camera says, "You're not seeing this, I'm looking away." And my problem was that I think that it takes a better filmmaker to be able to take this subject and deal with it and put it on screen in a way that isn't exploitative. And I doesn't say you can't do it in a way that isn't exploitative, but it would take a better filmmaker to do it. I don't doubt that there is some very, very good and interesting intention in there, and that there is a very interesting discussion to be had about the film. But my problem is this: when I see this story, what I want to be worrying about is the motivations of the characters. I don't want to be worrying about the motivations of the filmmakers. And I think that I have to say in the end that my experience of watching the film was primarily I was worrying about the film rather than worrying about the situation it depicted, which for me means that it doesn't work.
Why were you worrying about the film?
Because I didn't trust it. I didn't trust the film because they were, you know, because it made aesthetic decisions that didn't work for me. I mean, I did. As I said, I'm a film critic. I'm not a filmmaker. I can't tell you how to make that film better. What I can tell you is that my anxieties and my worries and my feelings of complicity were not primarily to do with this appalling situation, which is what you ought to be worrying about. It was to do with how the film was handling them. And if you're worrying about how the film is handling those situations, then it's not managing to get to the heart of the thing it's depicting. I mean, I ended up thinking, I'd be really interested to watch a documentary about this, and that's the ultimate cop-out, and incidentally that's not a solution, but what I'm saying is that the film didn't succeed for me because I just I spent too much time worrying about worrying about the film itself, worrying about the way the film was depicting this event, worrying about whether the film was exploiting this event, and that troubled me.